Stop it.
Whoever does that, that's gross.
Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris. Apologize for that intro. How are you guys doing? All right.
Well,
Tonight,
awesome.
episode 17. That was an awesome way to start it out. We're going to be talking about the Anunnaki. Oh, my God, Chris. You're killing me. Wow.
Anunnaki.
As you can see, this is a highly, polished program.
Very polished.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Oh, we're the top, man. We're top.
That's right. That's right. So
we're right behind Joe Rogan.
Oh, man. So, like I said, we're going to talk about Anunnaki. Basically, some of it is, this is one of those ancient theories of
ancient goddess.
Possibly the start of our civilization.
Yes, ancient goddess.
So, it's basically a little brief thing we'll start out with. Anunnaki. The name Anunnaki means those who from heaven to earth came, is what it means. Humanity, has for as long as records have been kept, has searched and theorized about where did we come from. Everything from evolution theories, creation theories. They've gone out just where did we come from? Did we just happen upon this place? Did we evolve from a primordial soup? How did we come to be?
Yeah.
Well, most have adopted a theological explanation that we were created by God on a planet.
Yep.
And we wait for God's return. The righteous believers go to heaven, whereas the non-believers are punished for eternity. And most people have heard, one of those, whether you've gone to church, just heard it from grandparents. I mean, most of us know these stories, no matter what religion you're part of. This right here isn't going to be a debate on religion and validity, of those teachings over other religions or what they believe. What I'm kind of focused on is the thought process into, what other explanations, that when you think about it, as it is, the fact that we just created out of nothing and here we are, I don't see that's any more fantastic, a thing than scope and complexity of possibly another race traveling through space, finds this planet, decides this is the place for us. It's both the same thing. We've both been created, but one is a soul omnipotent being. The other is, like I said, a spacefaring, civilization that was known to be, by the name the Anunnaki from Sumerian cuneiform scripts. So I don't know what all you guys discovered on this one. I've got my pages research done.
Got my pages for?
No. So, did you guys find anything in your research, or did you not get to it?
20,000 clay tablets, which they left directly connected to the Anunnakis. They've got ancient carvings that nobody can really translate as that's what I've seen. So,
well, most of them they can translate, like the cuneiform. There's just a lot of them. Just when they're references, a lot of the references is some of the things that are lost. On some of those, during that research, did you happen upon the name of that library by any chance?
No, I did not stumble upon the name of the library.
I'm going to really butcher the name, but I'm going to try to do it as best as I can. The Library of Ashurbanipal.
Ashurbanipal,
sounds good to me. It contains a collection, and it's actually 30,000 clay tablets and fragments. And they date back from the 7th century BC. So that's
before Christ. Technically, if you don't know what BC stands for, that B stands for before Christ or before creation.
Yep, and then we'll kind of date back to the Anunnaki theory is so in 1976, author and researcher Zachariah Sitchin, he publishes the first of one of his books. I think there were 7 of them that go by the Earth Chronicles, and in that he claims to have found in his search. He claims to have found 14 tablets that he's come to call the tablets of Enki.
Inky.
And what these tablets did is they're kind think of like books in the Bible. What it is it's this God's account of what occurred during this time. I want to say the time frame is like 400,000 years.
400,000. That's the time frame.
And so what he did is when he was translating these ancient Sumerian tablets, he found that that there were secrets that were there that were exposing our origins. The Anunnaki is a collective name for these gods from heaven and earth, in which a triad. Other religions refer this to as the Trinity:
Trinity.
God, Holy Spirit, Jesus. So that was held as most. This was, and these 3 were held kind of as the most important out of them, and that was Anu, and Enlil, and
Inaki and Nanaharasag.
no,
No
no,
what?
no. The 3 were Enki, Anu, and Enlil. Those are the 3. Those were the top 3. Enki was the Sumerian god of water and wisdom. Anu was the sky father. His sons were Enki and Enlil, and he was the king of all gods, lord of the constellations. And Enlil was the king of the other Sumerian gods, the lesser gods, and he was the god of air. So those are the 3 that the Sumerians held in their triad formed Trinity. And so this is a little bit of the kind of the backstory about these guys. And so there's mixed reviews, from researchers and stuff about these tablets of Enki. Some claim it's bogus. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't, but we're also taking this from the word of established scientists who they disregard even evidence of giants.
Yeah.
The large bones that are found, and they say that those don't exist. Well, if that was the case, like I said, one, where are these coming from? I mean, because some of these bones are reported, like take like a femur bone. It's that femur bone itself is the height would be like from your waist down, and that's just the femur bone.
Jeez.
You said from my waist down?
Yep. Well, like I said, which is most people, like I said, your femur. I mean, that's
a baby.
We're talking almost 3 feet for that one bone.
Yeah.
And
From
so
your waist down, that's a baby femur.
that's the newborn Anunnaki. That's awesome.
You had to go there, Austin.
Yes, he did. Yeah, so we basically, so then we go. So as you go through this, we'll tell a little story of where these tablets were found. There's an ancient town of Nineveh. I don't know if either of you guys have ever heard of that. Nineveh. It's what's considered. It was the capital of Assyria in Mesopotamia. This site is modern day Iraq near Mosul. So it's really big right now because ISIS, they were destroying a lot of antiquities and artifacts in the areas that they controlled. So there's potentially stuff that was destroyed, which obviously you can't replace. You don't know what was there. There was many things where they would go through, just topple statues, just blow up, sites, and so it's just rubble, and so there's nothing left. And so how much of the stuff would actually correlate, corroborate, we don't know. But this So in some of the tablets that he said he found the Anunnaki who were said to inhabit a planet called Nibiru. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. Also known as Planet X or Planet 9. It's another
what?
conspiracy. It's another kind of conspiracy theory that there's a secret planet out there that nobody wants to talk about. Well, what this?
Pluto.
Yeah, go ahead. Good, Chris. You had something on
Nobody wants to talk about Uranus, but
it? Nah, come on. it's so basically, this one, a lot of people are crazy, but in 2015, Caltech researchers, they ran some models and they actually discovered that hypothetically, based off these models, a planet like this could exist out there because there's several objects out past Neptune that their orbits aren't how they should be. And so because of this orbit, obviously something was interacting with these, causing them to act differently. So through these models, they discovered that there would have to be a large body, at least about 10 times the size of Earth, that would do this instead of like our normal where it would just circle around. This one was like an elongated, so it would take forever to, they figured it was about 10 to 20,000 years to do an orbit around the sun.
Wow.
And so this one, but according to these tablets, their account was it was 3,600 years. So, these are model. But what this does is these two researchers, Konstantin, I think it's Butigan, and Mike Brown. I'm sorry, I butchered some of his names. I go, why can't the other guy have the same name, Mike Brown? Come on, take it easy on us here. These guys are both astronomers, and so they're not mom's basement dweller guys that just ran some numbers on their personal computer and just came up with this theory. I mean, these are guys from Caltech that they actually take it seriously. They observed these planetary bodies out there acting a way that they shouldn't act if it was based off of the rest of the planets. So there has to be something out there. Well, so if Sitchin was crazy and wasn't translating these tablets correctly, in 1976, how did he know about this planet that they just hypothetically discovered using these computer models in 2015?
He looked into the future. He knew about the future.
Well, no, he translated tablets. He translated tablets that were there from, over 3,000 years ago. I mean, that's not time travel. That's not knowing the future. I mean, you're literally.
He just did research.
Yeah, we're taking what people said. You're crazy. This doesn't exist. You're like, I just translated this here, and you guys now. And the sad part is he died in 2010.
And
so he wasn't even there for that validation.
And for the millennials, when they're talking about tablets, they're not talking about your iPad here. We're talking about ancient carvings on a wall. We're not talking about iPads here.
These are clay tablets. So here's the, this, guy that this is his life's work. He's being criticized, and now all of a sudden, here it is, and it is, in a way validated to that. Matt, producer, he's bringing up a picture right now. Matt, if you can scroll that up a little bit so people can see. Now, I want you to look. No, stop right there. So now, if you look at the picture if you look on the one on the left, the one that's kind of brown, if you blow that picture up, you'll see it's a picture of a winged god-like figure, which is the Anunnaki. And then if you look at what he's coming out of, it's like he's sitting in a vase that has wings.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you think about ancient things, how do they know how to describe a ship? So in the Bible, you have Ezekiel's chariot. You have all these accounts of something flying off. Well, what if, like I said, this is You see the Ancient Alien show. You see all these depictions of these things. What if that was their way of trying? There it is, right there. So you can see he's clearly sitting inside of something. So what is that he would be in that has wings? So that, to me, you look at that and they're clearly trying to depict him flying in something, because there's
Flying machine of sorts.
he's in a vessel with wings. So that's their way of describing this guy. This god was
Flying.
So it's
Like the chariots of fire.
Yep. And that's one of those
Makes
where
sense.
you get, you look at it and you start seeing some of these carvings from around, whether it's Egypt, Samaria. You start to see things that we get into a little bit about the giants, but the Anunnaki. So they came to Earth. Well, under Sitchin, his translation said that the reason that they needed to come to Earth is that they had a problem with their atmosphere.
But the atmosphere.
And the only way to repair that was fine gold particles. So they needed
stealing our gold.
So that's what they did. Is they
Harvesting gold.
came to this planet, which we could assume on their orbit as they're making their way around. As they're coming by, they jump across. They realize we've got this stuff laying around. Early humans, probably didn't have much of a use for this material. Well, they start they would need to gather it up. Well, then this is labor intensive, so they need to figure out a way to harvest this without them having to do it themselves. So that's where we come into the picture. So we enter the picture, and this is where some of the debate comes in. And I've had this with some of with some people, like in different religions, different stuff, where we'll kind of go back, we'll kind of deviate just a little bit. It's like, I went to a Bible college for a year, and it was at that point that I started to question the way that it was laid out, because I kind of looked at it. Church was more interested in the power and the way to direct money, and I became more to where I had believed that there was something higher above us, because I don't just believe this spontaneously happened. Something, and I've always said, whether it was Star Trek Genesis probe shot into the and just started it, or if it was an Anunnaki type civilization that came in and created what we have here. Now, did they create us out of nothing, as it says in the Bible and other religious texts, or was it more of an actual science based, where they took on their own DNA and put it in an animal? So you could have the evolution where the claim is we evolved from primates. So now, did they do a cloning project where kind of like people want to do with dinosaurs, use frog DNA and try to miss it? Now, did they take their DNA and combine it with monkeys to create early humanoids?
Craig, why it had to be the monkey? Why couldn't it be another animal?
Because that's what they say they've evolved from. It has to be.
I know.
Yep. That's what it has to be. And so,
I mean, there's no really other animal that resembles us.
And so that's one of the, as you go down, one of the things like Matt was showing you, that one link I had where they kind of gave a loose breakdown of those tablets of one. As they go through, they talk about, so Bible, in the Bible stories, we've got, and I'll find the one here that I really wanted to talk about. So it was in the Bible, you have Genesis 1:26. The passage says, and God said, let us make man in our image, our likeness, and let them have dominion over the, and it goes on. Key words on there, was let us. and make man in our image after our likeness. So when you're looking at that, that's where my question is when I came from the religion side, I was always God. There's God, there's the Trinity. Well, then, according to like that passage, to me, in looking at it, I want to look at it. It describes a group of people, not just a singular entity. Because even through the Bible, God sends down His Son. Well, that's the more than one individual. It's not one and the same. Just through the description of my son. So this one, so right here, just in this passage that from these tablets, he's finding these things, the description of these three, like I said, the Trinity, which that's already been kind of an underlying thing that a lot of religions have taken from a lot of ancient civilizations and just modified it throughout the years. So when you're looking at something, so make this man out of our image. So then we roll forward a little bit, and if you continue on through the Bible, so now we have legends of giants. Well, these cross between Anunnaki and these things were huge. I mean, you have the David and Goliath story. That was one of the offspring of the Anunnaki.
I can believe that.
Yeah, so there's, they're also considered, called the Nephilim.
Nichols.
And so you have this, you have this group, and now we can start to get into other aspects. And then I'm just looking at what Albert was saying. And that's, like I said, yeah, it doesn't say like actual, like in that passage. I know, like in this one, it's more touches on, okay, did they clone? Did they, because that's where the interpretation of that passage is. I mean, did they just say that they were going to directly, make it? Because I mean, if I read it word for word, it said, "Let us make man in our image." So I mean, to me, that means that under that, in our image means, you look like him. I mean, I view that as, it's a direct correlation. And then I'm just looking, and then you kind of go through the stories, and through these tablets, they also hint at a great cataclysm, which ties in also with the Bible, with the flood. I don't want to get too, we don't have enough time to go, tablet by tablet, but in some of the tablets, they talk about a great war with weapons. And so this could also, one of those weapons could have been the cause of water if they knew it was coming. So you have the Noah's Ark. Well, the problem that a lot of people have always had with the story is, just the sheer, just wrap your mind about that. Two of each animal came from all across the world to that one location, and you have a boat big enough to hold all these animals. Because just logistics, you start thinking about it, it's like, okay, how are you feeding all these animals? How are you taking care of all these animals? I mean, like I said, you look at it, we'd have to believe that somehow, he had some way of sedatives, so the lion's not going around eating everything that's on the, in captivity. And so what the theory on here is that Noah's Ark wasn't so much a physical, like, giant boat with all the animals, as more of a vessel that contained the DNA samples of all these animals. So it was more of an ark, as in, say, like a time capsule where things are kept there, and as soon as things have resolved themselves, they were able to restart populating this planet with those animals again. they were able to clone them, send them out. They could start repopulating.
But no one. But what I was studying, what I was looking up is what do you think they did with the gold? Gold. What is your speculation? No one knows why they wanted gold, but no one also know how much they took and what they used it for. What did you think they used it for?
Well, me and Matt tonight, we talked a little bit about this prior to the program, but it's one of those. They, I think, too, they instilled this
Gold,
through the.
gold really doesn't have much value for ancient man. It's more of a conductive space age non-tarnishing metal. So
Non-corrosive metal.
yeah, non-corrosive. So it doesn't really make much sense why it was so valuable back in the past.
Iron would have been more valuable back in
Right.
Mesopotamia than gold would have been.
It's not great for making weapons out of. It's
It's too
a
soft.
really useless metal for ancient man, which leads you to believe that there was some reason why we held it in such value over the years. And now all of a sudden, with technology coming into play, gold becomes way more valuable for technology, which explains why a space race would come to our planet to basically create a race that will harvest and mine it for them.
Yep, and then
To get all the gold that they took to space back.
Well, we would be doing all the labor of mining it, and they'll just come and jack our piggy banks.
Yeah, basically, if you guys watched the movie Stargate? Okay, there's another lesson for you. You need to watch that movie.
The funny thing is we're gonna fool them because they're gonna come to Fort Knox and realize there was nothing in there.
Yep, that's so so that type of thing. So here we are. We've been turned into a worker class that's harvesting this stuff to take off world. But then a lot of the stuff is okay. So did they suddenly not need it anymore, or was it one of the other theories is that they don't have like interstellar travel. They need to be fairly within like close proximity. And that's how so basically things are being prepared for, when
Nibiru return loop,
it's going to all start over again. It's going to be like, round 2, round 5, round 6, whatever it's been. Because we look at the tablets, there was a war between one of them was, if I remember right, the exact words were something like there was a war between Mars and Earth, and that's how Mars ended up dry and barren. And Earth, went through turmoil, the same, dinosaur, So they go through, it went through this, and like I said, here's a guy in 1976 translating these tablets that are talking about, war on, war between this civilization. It is, I look at it, and we've talked to giants. We talked a little bit earlier. They another passage in the Bible too refers to them also. Numbers 13. I know Numbers 13:33 for sure talks about it. It says, "And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anunnaki, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." So in other words, this is saying that we're looking up at these huge beings, and they're looking down upon us. And this group that went out there was sent to search out these sons of Anak to find out, it was basically like a reconnaissance mission, and they came back and they're like, these guys are going to wipe us off these guys are huge. And that's stories that are told throughout, not even just in the Middle East area, this Mesopotamian area, ancient, early Native American tribes talked about these giants that they would fight. And some of these burial mounds throughout the U.S. are are these burial sites where some of these giants are buried, and as they're dug up, they're finding these giant bones. And so this would be one of those questions. So yeah, that's where Smithsonian is reported to, as soon as they're found, they're taken up. That's another conspiracy for another show, about the Smithsonian and what they're handling. And then I know he's trying to type them. It's like, oh no, yeah, save them up. We'll talk about them. I'll answer your questions after the show more in detail. So here's this race of spacefaring civilization on this planet that are reported to be giants, and now we have got stories throughout the world in different areas. But obviously, the ancient Sumerians and the native tribes here in North America, they never communicated. There's no direct communication, but yet all these tribes talk about a ferocious, fearsome giant race that had no regard for the lower class humanoid, and would just wipe them out when they saw him. And then so it kind of lends a little bit more credence to Sitchin's work, that here we have a large giant race that deems themselves superior, and they create a smaller working class to do all this effort for them. And then as you go through, it's kind of, in a way, we should have talked about this a little bit. That's awesome, that picture. We should have also talked about Egypt. So this, like, his theory here kind of bleeds over into that. You've always had questions of how did they build Stonehenge? How did Egypt? How did they build the pyramids? How did they put up these giant monolithic, structures? When you think about it, the sons of Anunnaki were rumored to be anywhere from 9 to almost 30 feet tall. And so, just like anything, picture Austin, like one of your sons trying to lift up. Yeah, we try to picture one of them picking up a bowling ball, and you picking up that same bowling ball. And that's kind of how this was with these blocks. You see, they're like, these are 1-ton blocks, and they're trying to figure out how they got them from here to there. We think that's just like asking your son to put that bowling ball up on top of a shelf, and then you putting it up there, where you're going to just pick it up and set it up on the shelf. Your son is going to have to come up with some elaborate crane-like system to try to figure out how to move it from place to place to place to finally get it up there. And down the road, people are going to look at you two, and they're going to look at this, and they're like, how is it possible? There's no way he could have moved that weight up to the top. There's no way. You're coming up with all different. You're coming up with all different theories. You're coming up with all different things, and then you realize, well, now this Anunnaki giants theory, this might have some credence, because now moving those blocks, two of these guys could probably lift that block.
This kind of goes back to our other episode with the pyramids. They built the pyramids with no cranes, no other stuff. So how did they move these massive figures, these rocks, to build this stuff?
So I mean, you think possibly 30-foot tall humanoid person is not going to have any problem hoisting a stone slab that's the size of a car. 2 or 3 of these guys are going to be, they're going to be able to lift this thing up in place and set it down. We're going to come along and we're like, I don't have any idea how this is possible. And so there's another picture you see of pyramids. There's an opening where people go in, the smaller opening, but if you look above it, there's actually a gigantic opening. And that's also always been a theory, is trying to figure out what could that have been for. Was possible it might have been for the Anunnaki. These people to go in there, that might have been their interest. Because to this time, we still don't really know the purpose of the pyramids. they're not they weren't designed as a tomb. Even though some of them they found them, but they just that was the assumption. But it could have been just you think about it. You come along as a race that declares the pharaoh as the supreme being leader. Well, you've got these structures, the Sphinx and these pyramids that are sitting there. Well, I, Craig, Pharaoh, this one, I'm going. That's going to be my tomb. And now you just have them design. You have them do stuff in the center, inside of it to make it your tomb. Or we come by 1,000 years later and we're like, wow, look at this tomb he built.
We've got a guest asking a question. When did this theory of giants come about?
It really started 1976. Back when Zachariah Sitchin found, like, that's where they said there's those two camps. I think he's just crazy. He's taking wild leaps at this. He's not, he's just translating what he wants to fit his ideas. But then you also have the same thing as we talked about, where Caltech researchers actually just hypothetically proved what he theorized in 1976 in his writings, the Earth Chronicles. And so here, these tablets exist. I mean, they're not made up. I mean, they're just, he went through. I mean, here's a guy who learned Sumerian cuneiform to learn this, but then now was that like possibly the purpose of the tomb was that's what the common Egyptology thing. But as it goes on, there's more and more people that are questioning the current academia when it comes to Egyptology, because there's certain things like right now that one current theory being thrown out there is that the Sphinx is older than the pyramids.
I heard that.
Because they're in some of the areas.
What was that about?
They put that as some of the erosion on there is only caused by water, and the erosion that's shown on the Sphinx isn't shown on the pyramids. So these obviously could not have been the same time period. And the way it's been, I'm going to butcher it because I don't have the stuff in front of me. But when you look at the way it's laid out, it's not laid out how it normally would be when it came to where the Sphinx is laid out in proportion to the pyramids. It's not the typical way that when you look through Egyptian, way things are designed. That's not how it normally is. So that's one of the things that they use. It's like this was here, and because it was already there, they want the pyramids to match up with Orion's belt. 3 stars. Because that was that's what the pyramids had to go. So that's why it's off in that location. And so that's long story short. How it ties in with those, and so we get kind of circling back to where do we believe and that's it's like written mentions giants. Well, see, and that's the crazy part. It's like, and I've kind of brought in with the Bible. So if we take it as as a believer in the Bible, if you take it word for word, you have to take it literally, because I mean, if you believe one passage, you can't just discount another one as, well, that's allegory, that's just that's a way of metaphor, that's the way, because it's either word for word or all of it's metaphors and kind of like just a guide to a better life. I mean, you can't pick and choose what is literal and what isn't. We go back to one of the books, and when I talk about the Book of Enoch, that was thrown out as deemed as non-canonical. Well, this talks about a lot of the same stuff. So why is it that book is gone, but the other ones aren't? Is part of the debate too. And this is where with many times throughout the Bible, they talk about a giant race. So obviously, we weren't the only ones created. So if we were created in God's image, well, what were these others created of? And there's theories that they're fallen angels, there's, but in the same, and that's the thing. And that's one of the things where I bring in. So next week, hopefully, we'll talk about angels and demons. But if we believe that, then I mean, we're talking that isn't any more crazy of a theory than the Anunnaki traveling on a planet in this long orbit. If you think about it, it's just fallen angels came down, bred with man, created the Nephilim. It's in the Bible, and so that's where I'm like, it's so you have to. So if we believe that the story of Christ is legit, that is word for word. The fact you have to believe in the Nephilim, you have to believe in the giants, you have to believe. I mean, you go down the line. I mean, there's a lot of things that suddenly, what would seem crazy, you would have to hold stock in. And there's, I don't know if I'd go so far as like the movie Noah. Believe that there's rock creatures going around that that helped. I mean, that was a Hollywood fiction, but it's as you get through those things, that's where the stories. I said I can see it. I mean, I can say I can hold some belief in that. The Anunnaki were real. Whether or not was it an ancient civilization? I mean, I've always held the belief we're not we're not the first civilization that's actually lived on this planet. I believe that there's been many, just over the times like we've had, because I think we mentioned at some point, we've talked about it before, where like right now, nuclear thing, if we had a huge fallout, EMPs, we go back to the Stone Age, we're only a few years away from all of us are running around with handmade spears and bows and arrows. Because there's not very many people that know how to manufacture bullets, know how to manufacture electronics, that know how to make paper, and know how to make soap. And before long, you're back to wearing animal skins. As things break down and start burying, like I said, you could see how a civilization could easily devolve back into more primitive thing to where it's agrarian, where all you're doing is agriculture, hunting, and as doctors die off, suddenly you have people dying at a young age of disease. I mean, you could reset real fast.
You know what I want to say about that, but I can't say about that. Going back to
and so there's a lot, that we would, like I said, we'll have many topics, for talking, later on. But this is, so I don't know what you guys feel. It's like, do you hold any stock in the theory by Zachariah Sitchin of the Anunnaki and the planet Nibiru?
I'm agnostic.
That's me. I'm agnostic.
I'm agnostic. I don't know. I don't know whether there's anything.
Yeah. There is.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
There is something, but there's no proof.
That's why I'm agnostic.
Right?
Nothing proves like, hey, this is it. I can't narrow it down yet.
What'd you say?
You're saying that you can't narrow it down. And that's been kind of the thing. It's like, here we have ancient civilizations that you go across the board. I mean, if you ever watch the show Ancient Aliens, it's the type that you'll see all that, there's ancient astronauts is what they talk about throughout thing. They've through all these cultures, South America, Asia, they talk about there's common themes to where you see a serpent-like creature, or you see some that looks like it's wearing a helmet, carrying something. And it's no matter where, even in Egyptian hieroglyphics, they even show pictures, because normally they do it representationally. And so they even show like the obelisk, and they show two giant figures on either side of it for the obelisks. And same way with the pyramid, they show a giant figure next to the pyramid. So one, you start to think, it's like, okay, so either these guys were just visionaries, like that, this, we're looking at Egyptian science fiction, That's their way of comic book, and it's like, oh my god, can you imagine what it'd be like if we had giants that would push these things up instead of us having to take 1,000 people to do it? Oh, that'd be so. Let me put that on the wall. I mean, it could have been that. We don't know, but it's crazy, fantastical,
Yeah.
nonetheless. But all I know is that the Anunnaki, they're
It's
the
a good
they're the
theory,
real
but
well, they're the real
I don't
losers because they don't have beard oil. They're like what 3,000 years away from even coming close to Kelly's.
know. We start threatening people.
They're gonna come down. Everybody's gonna be they're gonna be looking for gold, and they're like,
We can
"What's
send it
that?"
to him. Give a piece off where it come down.
Yeah, you're too late. Kelly was gone.
Oh no,
Kelly,
we don't deal with gold anymore. We deal with Kelly's beard.
yeah, they're gonna have to dig it up in some tomb. Find a bottle of the oil. Yeah, so Kelly brought BrossBeardCare.com. He's sponsor. Just check him out. Use our code 3beards. It's capital B. Check out. You get free shipping and 20% off your order. We all use the beard products. Works really good. Wives love the smell.
Always check him out on social media.
Yep, he's
Check
on
him out
there.
on social media too, man. Because he's always at one of the farmers market. He's always doing other events too across the state of Florida, and him and his brothers. So always check out his social media to see where he'll be at all across Florida, man. I think he's going to be going. There was an event he added. I didn't get a chance to see the location, but it's a craft fair. So check him out all the time.
Nanny Cakes, Nancy Burke. Let her know in the Central Florida area. Let her know you heard it from us. You get a discount on your cake. Just had her make one for my son for his birthday. Turned out real amazing. Nerve cake looked pretty, really good. Tasted great. So give her a call at 407 9. I always forget her phone number.
923-2898.
Yeah.
Yeah, she made your son's cake. She made a wedding cake, Valentine's Day. She made a 4th-tier cake. Man, she's always busy, but she'll take your order. And I mean, always taking orders. So check her out on social media. Nanny Cakes Nancy Burke on Facebook and Nancy.B.Burke. So
we lost Chris, but we'll just go. So obviously, 3beardspodcast.com. Go there. Check that out. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Yep, go there and like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get this up. Please share it, please comment. The more people that do that, the more we'll get. Debbie, thanks again for watching. Appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed it. Obviously, go with us. Share it on Facebook, but please send that out to because people that you see, we don't see, and so by you sharing the love. By you sharing it to your friends list, it's going to introduce you to some people that would have had otherwise not have heard it. We appreciate all and everyone that watches. So please share it, do everything you can for us. And as always, gentlemen, Chris, Austin, Matt, good night.